We live in a world overflowing with arguments in comment sections, news headlines, viral posts, and even familial discourse. Everyone has a take, but how many hold up under scrutiny? Logic isn't about being the smartest person in the room or winning every debate. It's a quiet tool for seeing things clearly, making better decisions, and protecting yourself from being misled. In everyday life, logic helps you cut through noise, evaluate claims on social media, weigh options when buying something, resolve disagreements without emotion taking over, spot bad advice disguised as wisdom, and build stronger beliefs that don't crumble under pressure. It's practical, not abstract theory, because it equips you to think honestly about reality. Avoid costly mistakes and live with more confidence and less confusion. A worldview without logic is a worldview built on sand. So today, let's walk through the foundations, the core laws of thought, how arguments actually work, the difference between deduction and induction, and the most common fallacies that sneak into our thinking every day. This is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. But even these basics can shift how you see the world. First, what is logic? At its heart, logic is the study of correct reasoning, the rules that tell us when an argument is solid and when it's flawed. It's not about what people believe, but about whether beliefs follow from evidence in a reliable way. We can divide logic roughly into two main branches: formal logic and informal logic, each serving distinct but complementary purposes in how we reason about the world. Formal logic is the more structured mathematical side of reasoning. It focuses on the form or structure of arguments, treating them like equations where validity can be proven through rules and proofs. Think of it as a system where propositions are assigned letters, like X requires Y. If Y is the case, then X is the case. A classic tool here is the truth table, which exhaustively checks all possible truth values, true or false, for a statement to see if it's always true, a tautology, always false, a contradiction, or contingent. Formal logic shines in fields like mathematics, computer science, and formal debates. Its strength is certainty. If the form is valid and the premise is true, the conclusion is inescapable. However, its limitation is real-world messiness. Informal logic, by contrast, deals with the messy, natural language arguments we encounter in real life. Conversations, informal debates, editorials, advertisements, social media threads. It emphasizes content, context, rather than pure symbolic form, evaluating how well an argument persuades based on evidence and clarity. Here, we look at rhetorical strength, hidden assumptions, and practical implications. For instance, an informal argument might say, exercise improves health because studies show it reduces heart disease risk. And we'd assess not just the structure, but the quality of those studies, potential biases, and counterexamples. Informal logic draws from critical thinking skills, like identifying vagueness. For example, what does improves health really mean? Spotting inconsistencies and weighing probabilities in uncertain situations. It's essential for navigating misinformation in today's world. While less rigid than formal logic, it's more flexible and applicable, helping us build reasonable beliefs even when complete certainty isn't possible. Together, formal and informal logic form a complete toolkit. Formal logic provides the structure of the argument, and informal logic provides the content of the argument itself. The foundation of all rational thought rests on three classical laws of thought, first clearly stated by Aristotle. The first is the law of identity. Something is what it is. For example, A equals A, and B equals B. An apple is an apple, and an orange is an orange. This law clears ambiguity and is necessary for identity and reality. Without this law, logic itself loses the ability to function, and all truth disappears. The second is the law of non-contradiction. It cannot be both A and B at the same time and in the same sense. Something can't be true and false simultaneously. This law is why contradictions are fatal to an argument. If a claim says, "This policy saves lives," and also, this policy doesn't save lives in the same context, one part must be wrong. In daily life, we see violations everywhere. People holding contradictory views without noticing, like demanding tolerance while being intolerant of disagreement. The term, in the same sense, is crucial to understanding this law. For example, you cannot love someone romantically and yet not love someone romantically, but you can love someone as a friend and not love them romantically. The third is the law of excluded middle. For any proposition, it's either true or false. No third option, A or not A. This doesn't mean we always know which is true, but every clear statement has one truth value. Without these three laws, coherent thought collapses. Nothing can be asserted or denied reliably. All challenges to these laws lead to a self-destructing worldview. These laws are axioms. I won't go into depth into axioms or these laws, as I'm saving it for a future video. Other basic axioms include things like the principle of sufficient reason, everything has a reason or cause, or basic inference rules. If X implies Y and X is true, then Y is true, modus ponens. Now, how do we actually build arguments? An argument has premises, starting claims, and a conclusion, what you're trying to prove. Logic checks if the conclusion follows from the premises. We distinguish two main types of reasoning. Deductive reasoning goes from general to specific and aims for certainty. If the premises are true and the structure is valid, the conclusion must be true. Classic example: all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. This is a valid syllogism, airtight if the premises hold. Inductive reasoning goes from specific observations to general conclusions and gives probability, not certainty. Every swan I've seen is white, so all swans are white, until someone finds a black swan. Induction powers science, predictions, and most everyday generalizations. But it's fallible, and issues of epistemic justification arise. But I'll cover that in a future video. Validity is about structure. Does the conclusion logically follow? Soundness is validity plus true premises. A bad argument can be valid if structured right, but unsound if the premises are false. Now, the part most people find immediately useful: fallacies. These are errors in logic that make arguments invalid. Fallacies are illogical because they violate the fundamental principles of sound reasoning, undermining the connection between premises and conclusions in an argument. At their core, logical arguments require that the conclusion follow necessarily in deduction or probably in induction from true or acceptable premises. Fallacies break this chain. They introduce irrelevant information, distort the opponent's position, rely on emotional manipulation instead of evidence, or assume what they set out to prove. Accepting a fallacious argument means surrendering clarity for convenience, emotion, or social pressure. It trades genuine understanding for the illusion of certainty. In a world already saturated with persuasion tactics, fallacies erode the very possibility of trustworthy dialogue and self-examination. To embrace them knowingly is to choose a lie over truth. To overlook them unknowingly is to let sloppy thinking quietly shape our worldview. Either way, they weaken the mind's ability to grasp reality as it is. If someone uses a fallacy against you, then you are allowed to use fallacies yourself, thus making you able to make any argument regardless of its soundness. Fallacies thus destroy the ability for valid argumentation. Here are some of the most frequent ones you'll encounter daily, with clear examples from everyday conversations, ads, or online discussions. Ad hominem: attacking the person without addressing the argument. Calling someone buzzwords and names instead of responding to their actual argument is not only fallacious, but it also shows you are unable to be intellectually honest. Strawman: misrepresenting someone's position to make it easier to attack. You like pancakes? So you hate waffles then. Instead of actually responding to the argument, you portray them falsely and sometimes portray them as a bad person, just to avoid addressing their argument. Circular reasoning. Your reason is the reason itself. X is bad because X is bad. It's a circle that infinitely references itself. Falling into infinite regress, X equals Y, which equals X, which also equals Y. You get the point. Being able to spot circularity is the bane of shallow beliefs. Appeal to authority. Relying on someone's status or expertise without evidence, assuming they're right simply because of their position. This diet is perfect because experts endorse it. Someone influential doesn't guarantee accuracy, and a regular person sharing solid data doesn't make it invalid. Appeal to emotion. Stirring feelings like fear, pity, or guilt instead of providing evidence. If you don't vote for us, you will lose your freedom. Powerful emotionally, but it doesn't prove the policy is necessary or effective. Facts about coverage and cost are missing. Hasty generalization. Drawing a broad conclusion from too small or unrepresentative a sample. I had a bad experience at a roller coaster, which means all amusement parks are bad. A few experiences don't represent the variety available. Appeal to the masses, also called bandwagon or ad populum. Claiming something is true because many people believe or do it. Everyone's switching to this new energy drink, so it must be the healthiest option. Popularity doesn't equal truth. Trends can be driven by marketing, not quality or science. Begging the question. Assuming the conclusion in the premise without proving it. My opinion is the best because it's the only reasonable one. In the statement, to prove your opinion as the best, you already assume it's the most reasonable, meaning the best one. It has to be proven in the statement, not assumed. Red herring. Introducing an irrelevant topic to distract from the main issue. In a discussion about whether a certain cooking method preserves nutrients, someone shifts to, "But have you seen how expensive fresh ingredients are these days?" It dodges the original point entirely, pulling attention away without addressing it. If you paid attention, you can probably notice that fallacies often show intellectual dishonesty, being unable to accept when you're wrong and resorting to illogical argumentation. Someone with full intellectual honesty will be able to see when their position makes no sense and is full of holes. In closing, logic isn't about being right all the time. It's about being honest with reality. Start small. Next time you see a strong claim online, ask, does this follow the laws? Are the premises true? Is the structure valid? Does it commit a fallacy? Even these basics can protect you from bad ideas, sharpen your beliefs, and bring more clarity to life. This is just the foundation. There's so much more. However, even this much can alter your perspective and make you more honest with yourself. Most people's beliefs are fallacious themselves, which can only lead them to nothing good. Peace out for now.